tradition that our ancestors has brought forth throughout the centuries, because this tradition didn't just come as something now come about. Our ancestors are steadfast and stood firm against oppression and suppression when we join the bottomless pit. So it's like having this here, so it's a real glorification to see on such a momentous occasion that our ancestors, that even the women as martyrs and matriarchs could be here even in representation to showing the gender balance between male and female. It's great to know that, each one could teach one within the supplication of righteousness. I do give thanks, blessed love and respect and honor to the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the prophets of prophets. Thank you.
Blessed be the name of the Most High, Kadamawi Haile Selassie, who has caused thy night to be here this day. Blessed be everyone who causes thy white countenance to shine upon one another. This is a special day, and I must give thanks to the presence of the chairman of the Indigenous organization, Reverend McGarrell. I must give thanks to the presence of El Farai, an ancient Rastafari that groomed the nation of Rastafari. Haile Rastafari. Well, this I man must give thanks to the High Majesty for bringing forth Marcus Messiah Garvey, the forerunner, whose presence is with us here this hour. For Marcus Messiah Garvey was born on the said day, the 17th of August, 1887, and I respect the glory of his coming forth and his presence here with I this hour. I give thanks for this presence. Wonderful.
I was sitting there a minute ago thinking that my job would have been over if we had continued with all of the expressions on Marcus Garvey. But it is my duty at the moment to basically give you a little more background on Marcus Garvey. So, today, Marcus Garvey's Day. 132 years ago, this day, the brightest star in the African constellation of great heroes was born. His parents proclaimed and pronounced his name, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and what he did would change the course of the world forever. Africans had just come out of 400 years of enslavement and needed leadership and direction. Though there were many blacks at the time who were highly educated as sons of the slave masters, who were speaking on behalf of the Africans without their input, none of them were able to match the task at hand. However, one from among the masses of Africans would rise up and answer the call for leadership and step forward with very long strides to confront the enemies of Africa. This is what he asked. Where is the black man's government? Where is his king and kingdom? Where is his president, his ambassadors, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? I could not find them, and then I declare I will help to make them. And help to make them he did. By his 35th birthday, he had created the most powerful organization the African world had ever seen from that time to this time. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, otherwise known as the UNIA. It had over 7 million members from more than 900 branches in 40 countries. It bought 3 ships for international trade and commerce and to repatriate Africans home to Africa. It owned office buildings, a printing press, and an auditorium named Liberty Hall. It built a hotel, a chain of factories, a chain of grocery stores, a chain of restaurants, a series of schools, 3 newspapers, and its own trucking company. Marcus Garvey even started his own political party named the People's Political Party, PPP. However, All that notwithstanding, the greatest thing he ever did, that still lives to champion his cause, was when being in command of the attention of the global African community, as the brother earlier said, he prophesied, "Look to the east, when a black king shall be crowned. He will be your redeemer." With that sentence, several years later, Rastafari was born with the crowning of His Imperial Majesty Kadamawe Haile Selassie as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of Judah. And the baton was passed from Marcus Garvey to Rastafari. Two things stand out for me when I remember Marcus Garvey, and those I'd like for you to take away today. The first one is that he was self-educated, right? Or he liberated himself from mental slavery, since he had gotten only an 8th grade education, which is roughly like about second form. So you could basically call him a school dropout, right? He did all of that with an 8th grade education. Secondly, the whole concept of self-reliance or self-determination, since he accomplished all of the above without any government assistance. In a time when there was no television, because television was invented like about 5 years after, and in a time when there was no internet that connected the billions of people around the world, right? So those are the two things that stand out for me when I think about Marcus Garvey. The fact that he did all of that with an 8th grade education and without any assistance from any government. Right? It was Kwame Nkrumah who said, "It matters not how high a man climbs, but the depths from whence he came." And I know that when he said that, he had Marcus Garvey in mind. Right? So, in closing, I'd like to leave you with 4 brief comments about Marcus Garvey from great men whom he influenced. And the first one was Kwame Nkrumah. And he said, "Long before many of us were even conscious of our own degradation, Marcus Garvey fought for African, national, and racial equality. I think that of all the literature I studied, the book that, more than any other, fired my enthusiasm was The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey." And that was Kwame Nkrumah, the first leader of an independent Ghana. The second person is Jomo Kenyatta, and he too was the independence leader of another African country, namely Kenya. And he said, and I quote, "In 1921, Kenyan nationals, unable to read, would gather around a reader of Marcus Garvey's newspaper, The Negro World, and listen to an article 2 or 3 times. Then they would run various ways through the forest, carefully to repeat the whole, which they had memorized, to Africans hungry for some doctrine which lifted them from the servile consciousness in which Africans lived at the time." Right? The third person is Malcolm X. And he said, "Every time you see another nation on the African continent become independent, you know that Marcus Garvey is alive. Had it not been for Marcus Garvey and the foundations laid by him, you would find no independent nations in the Caribbean today. All of the freedom movements that are taking place right here in America was initiated by the work and teachings of Marcus Garvey." And finally, by Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Marcus Garvey was the first man of color in history of the United States to lead and develop a mass movement. He was the first man on mass scale and level to give millions of Negroes a sense of dignity and destiny and make the Negro feel that he was somebody." This is the works of the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey, prophet within the Rastafari community. Give thanks.
This piece is entitled The Journey. When we were tricked, trapped, tied, and transported from the shores of motherland, through the mainland, down to the Caribbean, then to a place now called Georgetown, then up the east coast of Demerara to Orange, Nassau, known as Buxton. This journey can be very rough. Safety advisory is in full effect. Fasten all seatbelts. Upon the seashore, them catch me, and them main me, and them chain me in one slave ship. Them toss me, and them lash me, and them mash me. A British Guyana, them bring me, and them strip me, and them shame me. A Orange Nassau, them carry me. Look up, them walk me. Man, I saw them suck me. But them could have never killed me. Could have never shut me eye. Could have never moved the fire and the flame inside. So me stand up firm and mighty and chant, down with slavery. Massa draw away the whip. And they say, are we free to live? But freedom could have never come without 1 inch of land. Could have never lived for long with 2 empty hands. So we tie we bundle and chant the psalm to stand as one, and below up 1 crocus bar bread of silver mixed with copper, fruit of sweat and toil and sorrow, all the word we somehow gathered in our judgment. But the sacrifice had the sacrifice. So we buy that little ground and we call it Buxton. But we home was not we freedom. And the sacrifice was not the end of the fight. Beast of evil, shoot a massa in the ways of wickedness, and oppression plagued again. We who suffered all this pain. Massa opened me coca, flood our crops with salt water. Massa opened me courtroom, jailhouse, lockdown, and the prison. Massa curfew, massa clamp down, massa cut loose the battalion. But I rise 10 times, shut up, invoking the spirits of justice and rights. Blaze of fire, cutlass glitter, massa shiver. Massa send home free brother. Guns and bombs and all them kinds of weapons could have never conquer freedom. Massa brother had to run back to his mother, Queen of England. And the celebration start in the city, in the town, in the country all around, in the bars, in the pubs, in the night spots, in the dance hall, even Mandasi wall was a ball. Now we free. Freedom! Freedom come, celebration. Then reality dressed in a costume of fire rise up. And the celebration stop. And the tempo drop. And the Sanjiwang rise up. And everyone turned to see reality flunks in a costume of fire, gas in it all over. Some start running for cover, some get run up cover, some get burn up, some get licked up. More the fire getting serious. Who could stop reality now? Who could stand before his face? Who could dance the rhythm? Who could take the fire No reality shaking yet. Yes! Reality cheering, skunking, dancing, reaching, teaching. Who can take this fire? I go run. Who fight against reality? I go burn. So let I and I be with HIM in this Iowa. Face HIM. Look HIM eye to eye. Cause no matter where you go, HIM steering you. Get up. Stand up. Live up. Face reality. Set yourself free. End of journey and fasten our seatbelts. Thank you.
In light of the world, Haile Selassie Force. I acknowledge my brother, chairman of the Indigenous organization, Reverend Magarel, the ancient El Farai, from such time, Sister Nicole Cole, the most honorable Jah Lion, the faithful servant of Haile Selassie Force, and brothers and sisters present of one father and one mother, universal fatherhood and universal brotherhood. I give thanks for being in the presence of you, my friend. Today is a special day that would be recorded and remembered, for it means much to myself and those who have labored for the betterment of a battered nation. Aye, Lassie I, King Rastafari. Bringing all Rasta dead or alive. Those immortal words spoken by the first Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mr. Bustamante, which sum up the attitude of most Caribbean leaders towards the Rastafarian community from that time to this time. The ancients whom we honor today were among the generations of races who were tasked with the responsibility to the Bustamante mentality that existed in our society and still does among our friends, family, and those in authority. They were tasked with pushing back the enemies and carving out a space for the fledgling Rastafari community to breathe. The Guyana Rastafari Council, as a product and also higher of the efforts, thought it necessary on the occasion of our 20th anniversary of our registration, which was observed on July the 30th, to pause and recognize where we were coming from and why we are doing what we are doing. Over those 20 years, we have managed to gain official recognition as the representatives of the Rastafarian entity by Parliament, which see us as an entity to be consulted, which has resulted in our representatives, Mrs. Nicole Cole, being appointed as a commissioner on 2 constitutional rights commissions. And she's sitting right here. We are also recognized by the various political parties, civil society, and the international community in Guyana. So we have managed to establish a respectable image of Rastafari representation in Guyana through learning, diplomacy, and statesmanship. Our only challenge remains getting the sustained cooperation of the 2 other Rastafarian groups in Guyana, namely the House of Nyabingi and the 12 Tribes of Israel. We feel that the ancient among us can have a major influence in helping to resolve some of the challenges we have in our community through mediation. We are at a crossroad right now that will determine if we will thrive or become extinct over the next 10 years. It requires that, as His Majesty said, we overcome petty prejudice and engage in honest conversation with each other. I'd like to charge our ancients with that responsibility. They have taken that responsibility from such time, and they have marched forward and grew a nation. From 1935 in Guyana, the Rastafari movement is recorded, and this is historical. And we have seen from that time to this time, our ancient brothers had bring the Rastafari liberty to community liberty. We had North Fork, and we have brothers sitting right here and sisters who live and know about North Fork. In Cayuni Creek, we had brothers and sisters, 3,000 and more in one family living through self-sufficiency, depending on their own resourcefulness. Today we have seen grandfathers and grandmothers in the Rastafari movement. Today the Rastafari movement is advancing in making representation statical in such a way that the political arena have heard the voice of the Rastafari movement, because we are here to represent and defend this ancient culture. And from such time in Guyana, we have seen the battle that called for everyone within the Rastafari movement to cooperate and to work. For Marcus Garvey had done it, His Imperial Majesty, Crown King of Kings, and give Ethiopia constitution. And Isaiah 9:6 proclaimed, a child is born and a son is given, and the government was on his shoulders, and he did give Ethiopia constitution in 1931, a government. So I know that the Guyana Rastafari Council is the government of Rastafari. Haile Selassie Force, his name Rastafari Council, through the fraternity and by the fraternity, I is here to represent with I life the liberty of Rastafari. And I said this day, Haile Selassie Force, who called to honor the ancients who have trod this track from such time, and also call upon the nation to be focused on steadfast and grow as a nation, supporting and cooperating with itself towards its aims and objectives. And I see this day as the way forward. For the Guyana Rastafari Council is a registered organization with a constitution and objectives mirrored after the Majesty, Ethiopia. And I said this day, the objectives of the Guyana Rastafari Council is to be guided by the teachings of Haile Selassie Force that is written in the Kebra Negas. So I said this day, the Rastafari nation must stand stronger ever, for we are being a people with a voice, recognized in society as a people who is being marginalized in society, and we must come together and represent ourselves in society with one voice. Haile in Rastafari. I give thanks for the presence of one and all, and every year, yearly, this would be an event undertaken by the Guyana Rastafari Council to see to it that our brothers and sisters choose from among them those that are worthy to be honored as representatives and defense within the Rastafari movement. So I must take into account I myself as a people worthy among all nations, among all groups of people, to stand for and work in the interest of I concerns, and also to help those that I could. Haile Selassie King Rastafari. This day, let I stand together and advance together. Haile Rastafari. One black love.
You can't get support from your families, not friends. Try again, try again. Me write a big tune, it never meet the top 10. Say try again. Say try again, try again. Say try again, and try again. But watch out, you fail to prepare to fail. To make it in this life, you gotta be bold and brave. Stand up for your rights, don't be ashamed, or else the man can treat you like a slave.
The sun is shining, and the children are going to school, and the parents are going to work, yeah. Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful life! We came enough reach. Give thanks and praise for the new baby that born.
It would be before God and man to see the unification of all Rasta, not only man but woman. We must remember that with the crowning of the king, the emperor, the empress was also crowned alongside him. So right where we have the emperor right there, Ras Simeon, I am advocating for the Empress Menen to be right alongside him, because without the womb, there can be no life.